Okay, is everything? Yeah, we're live. Okay. There's like a weird lag where it didn't tell me if I was live or not. So today we're gonna go over Schopenhauer. Um, I just read The World as Will and Representation, so figured I'd talk about something that's fresh in my mind, something that I'm particularly interested in right now. So yeah, what's up, Ashley? Wow, you're here early. It's a real one right there, right?
Arthur Schopenhauer is infamous for his pessimistic outlook on life. He saw life on Earth
Show.
as a
What's the show?
cosmic disaster and felt that the universe would have been a better place without it. Human existence as a whole he compared to a prison sentence.
So this stuff sounds very like brutal, very weird, very like, as he said earlier, pessimistic. But these ideas that Buddha put forward first, and Schopenhauer is merely agreeing with them. And to a certain extent, I think if you take the outlook of most of this world is false. Most people go for things that really won't make them happy. Most people make decisions on a daily basis that are going to take them away from joy, take them away from happiness, make their lives worse. Then I think it's not that bad of a mindset. It's when you fix it on the pessimism where it becomes something evil, where it becomes something detrimental, um, when you can rise above it, when you can just kind of see the cracks in the foundation and just go your own path, that's the inspirational aspect of Schopenhauer's philosophy.
And he also claimed that our lives are not inherently enjoyable, but miserable, as our pain vastly outweighs our pleasure.
Think about what Camus said. You must imagine Sisyphus smiling. The idea of finding joy, finding solace in the monotony, finding some purpose, some meaning, some fulfillment in the little time you have on this world.
Like any other species, humans are motivated by a universal force called will, or will to live, which usually dictates our behavior, as most
So Schopenhauer calls the will to live basically the unconscious forces that make us do certain things. So, I mean, you can see where Freud gets his psychology. Freudian psychology derives from Schopenhauer a lot. He was a big inspiration for Freud, but basically, what the will to live means is the things that make you do certain things that are inexplicable. Like, why do you get hungry and then why do you get more aggressive because you're hungry? You know what I mean? It's like the little things that control our body, that control our mood, that we aren't really aware of, but have such a big impact on our lives. And you know, Schopenhauer particularly was fascinated by this idea because he was like, if we become aware of the will to live and we get past it, we rise above it, then we can basically open ourselves up to limitless potential. But because we succumb to these needs to survive, the need to survive and put your life above the lives of others, then you really lose compassion, you really lose empathy, you really lose morality. And this is what leads to wars, this is what leads to people hurting other people. And that's really what he's talking about when he says the will to live. Nietzsche takes the will to live a step further. He calls it the will to power, but I really just think they're the same thing. I think it's just the context in which they're describing him, and I don't think Nietzsche quite. Um, Maybe he did understand the will to live, maybe he understood it, but he didn't think it was a good term for it. But I see them as the same things in my mind.
of us are utterly and unknowingly enslaved by it. Hence, according to
I'm gonna
Schopenhauer,
read
the
this one pretty
vast
soon.
majority of people
I'm
set
excited to read this
themselves
one.
up for a lot of pain, pursuing the wrong things. By and large, we tend to make poor life choices because the will to live controls us and we lack.
Think of when you act irrationally, when you act angrily in something that really didn't deserve that level of emotion, something that really didn't dictate that amount of energy, it's that idea. Um, Real quick too, I've got two books today that I'm really excited to read. Sorry for that. I just smashed my microphone. This is Dubliners. It's the first thing James Joyce published. And then what is this called? A New Earth. This is another book by Eckhart Tolle. And then I also picked up Finnegan's Wake, but I'm not ready to read this yet.
Lack the strength and intelligence to operate otherwise. We usually chase worldly pleasures like playing card games, entertaining friends, or otherwise exciting activities that relieve us from the pain of boredom. But despite the blackness of his worldview, Schopenhauer also comes with solutions to make life.
Schopenhauer, if you want to understand Schopenhauer, understand Taoism. I think people call him like a Buddhist, but I think Taoism makes sense because it's not as focused on rigid structures. It's more you plug and play with your own life. You live your life in a manner that you see fit. And I think it coincides better with Schopenhauer's.
Endurable on this terrible, desolate rock infested by continual suffering. In his work, Aphorismen zur Lebensweisheit, in English, Aphorisms on the Wisdom of Life, he presents his ideas
I
on
was
how we
actually
can
gonna buy
live our
this
lives
week.
in such a way that we prevent misery as much as possible. This video explores his view on the wrong ways of living our lives.
So Schopenhauer was extremely influenced by Giordano Bruno, by Spinoza, by Meister Eckhart, and all of these other mystics. So you really see it bleed out into his philosophy, and this is probably a lot of the reason why he's not talked about as much as he really should be. And it's really unfortunate because this is the book I just finished. I was reading this book and I'm like, this is one of the most fun philosophy books I've ever read, and it's so unique. It's so um its own thing that it's really a shame that it's not respected as much. I have to change the color of this. I think it's like my camera's going in and out of focus.
And their consequences, but also on the surest path to a not so miserable and, God forbid, possibly even enjoyable existence. Arthur Schopenhauer presents us with a fundamental division between three aspects that decide our fate. The first one he mentions is what someone is.
So this is what Aristotle thought was the only definition of form. So most of Schopenhauer, the world as will and representation, is devoted to the Aristotelian difference between what is and what Plato described as forms, the idea that we create what we see in our mind and we can never quite see the full thing. We idealize it, so there's a little bit of difference. And it's interesting to see this so early on before the likes of Einstein, the likes of Tesla. Because I mean, it's pretty easy to say the world is objective and we have our own subjective reality tunnels, and everyone sees things exactly how they see it, and it's different for different people. Like it's really easy to say that now that we understand the difference between even time dilation, the special theory of relativity, general theory of relativity. We know about frequencies, we know about atoms, we know about basically everything you see is colorless. It's just vibrating at a certain frequency, which gives appearance to color. Um, all of these weird concepts that really aid to the subjective nature of reality. But Schopenhauer's talking about this before any of these things, and it's the reason he figures this out is because of the Eastern ideas he's studying. But
The second one, what someone has. And the last one, how someone stands in the estimation of others. Each of them has its upsides and downsides. But Schopenhauer concludes, nevertheless, that what someone is predominantly decides the quality of one's well-being. And thus, within our personality,
so you can see Freudian psychology here. You can see the roots of it. Even some of the elements of what Neville Goddard preaches about. Um, but this is a really important idea. Who you perceive yourself to be changes everything because everything is derived from thought. Before something is created, you must hold it in your hand. For something, before you can hold something in your hand, you must think about it in your mind. And once we form the thought, then everything else can follow. But people don't like to emphasize this point. They don't like to understand the point and really, really, really be intentional with their thoughts, be intentional with who you believe yourself to be. Because I'll tell you what, if you don't think you're capable of something, that's the first way to guarantee you can never do it. If you tell yourself you can do something right now, that you feel it in your heart that you can do it right now, that's the first step to anything. And I need you to understand this because so many people go through this world allowing everyone to break them down, allowing everyone in every circumstance that didn't go their way, that broke them down, that told them that they're not good enough to dictate their life, to dictate their future. You can completely change these things. I mean, it's not going to be overnight. You're not going to be able to tell yourself that, like, I'm a millionaire and be able to do it tomorrow. I mean, maybe you can. Maybe you're just that gifted when it comes to the mind. But these are ideas that if you begin to accept a new persona of yourself, if you begin to accept yourself in a light that's more aligned with who you really are, that's the path to happiness. That's the path to becoming who you deserve to be and becoming who you were born to be.
Personality, in the broadest sense of the word, hides the key to making life less miserable. However, it's
Again, this is
essential to
literally just Jungian
explore the
psychology.
other two aspects, even
Jung basically said that we make sacrifices to be part of society. We make sacrifices. We hide aspects of ourselves. We curtail certain characteristics because we don't want to be seen as weird. We don't want to be an outcast. And because of this, we become a lesser version of ourselves in our eyes. And this is what creates the shadow. This is what creates the unhappiness. This is what creates those unconscious forces, the anger, the rage, the discontent, the stress, the anxiety. This is what creates all sort of neuroses. And when we can align ourselves with who we actually want to be, who you feel like you are deep in your heart, and you start living like that day after day after day, nothing else matters. I feel like I've said this so many times recently, but I'm going to say it again because it's so important. Whatever is happening in the external world does not matter if your internal world is perfect. Okay? If you are happy on the inside, you can make the best of any circumstance. If you are completely happy, healthy, and you have energy, you have attention, you have everything that you need to just smile, then you can face whatever problem. But if you allow the world to break you down, then you lost your one gift. The one gift you have in this world is your ability to control your own brain and the ability to dictate your energy so that you can best handle those situations in your life. And we freely give away our attention, we freely give away our energy, we freely give away the one thing that sets us apart from every other animal in the entire world. It's the idea of consciousness, it's the idea of intuition, it's the idea that if we put our mind to something, we can think of the solution. And you always can. It's just a matter of allowing your mind to work, allowing your mind to be free, allowing your mind to believe that it's possible to do something instead of telling yourself that it's impossible, instead of telling yourself that I'm never going to be this. I'm never going to be that. It's like you just solidified it in your mind that you're never going to be something because you told yourself you wouldn't. I'm
if
glad
it's
you agree,
just to
actually.
remind ourselves where not to put our money.
I'm glad I'm not the
Also,
only one
it
that
may
feels this.
drastically alter how we view things like possessions and status, and reconsider the value we give them. Aren't we wasting our time pursuing what Marcus Aurelius called the clacking of tongues, meaning the audience approval? And what's the proper role of money in our lives? We begin our exploration with the aspect what someone has.
Think of how many people in this world base their entire ego, their entire sense of self off of what they have. Um, there's a lot of celebrities, a lot of famous people that's literally all they are. And if they lost it today, it would be nothing. And the truth is, like, no matter what material things you have, no matter what lack of material things you have, or if you have everything in the world that you could want, you're still much more than that. Your soul is so much more valuable than anything that money can buy. I mean, we can use a really easy example. Like, I have something Warren Buffett wants. I have youth. I'm still fairly young. Like, it's you're telling me he wouldn't spend billions and billions and billions of dollars to have my youth, to have my age, to be able to live and spend more time with his kids, spend more time with his wife, spend more times doing the things he loves. Like, you know what I mean? It's like your life, your soul is worth much more than anything that you could get in this world. And I really, really, really wish people would emphasize this, and I really wish people would understand this, because the more attachments you put to the things you have, the less you can put towards who you really are inside, what you really feel, your true emotions, the true things that you want out of life. Like, there's plenty of rich people in this world who would trade places with me because they have more problems than me. And I want you to understand that, like, whatever is going on in your life, it's not as bad as what someone else has. There are people in this world that would die to be in your position. There are people in this world that would trade places with you in a heartbeat. And we have the nerve to look at the world, to look at things and say, woe is me, I can't make it. I can't do this. I can't do that. It's like, you could take this mindset, you could continue to attach yourself to all these things, or you could continue to attach yourself to the things that really mean anything. Like, I have a beautiful girlfriend who loves me and supports me. It's like, I can't ask for anything more. Like, that's something that people in this world would pay and give an arm and a leg for. It's like, I got that for free. You know what I mean? It's like, how dare I ever complain? How dare I ever say I don't have every single blessing in the world? And it's recognizing that idea. It's recognizing that fact.
If the 19th century philosopher Schopenhauer would witness today's mass consumerism diseased culture, he would probably shake his head at us in disapproval. Schopenhauer was well aware of the human tendency to accumulate material possessions and financial resources.
Think of what Buddha said, all desires, all suffering is desire. When you don't want anything, you don't need when you don't need anything, you're complete already. The moment you need one thing, you need something else and something else and something else. And then it's never enough. Have you ever bought a car? You're like, wow, this is a super nice car. And then you see the New Year's model, and you're like, I spent all this money and there's a better car already. And you don't like the car as much after. And that's this idea, like, anything you can get in this world, there's always a one up. There'll always be improvements. There'll always be something better. And you'll always be chasing that feeling. When you find that fulfillment, that happiness in yourself, when you find all those contentments, all the things that you're looking for within, then you don't need anything on the outside.
As a means to purchase them. People buy stuff because they think this makes them
For
happy.
free.
But following Schopenhauer's fundamental
I
beliefs
have to
on the
buy
nature of
flowers,
happiness,
but
the accumulation
it's
of
not that
property
bad.
is a human way of reducing pain, the latter being the positive force that has come to an end by the purchase or gain. In the context of consumerism, the positive
So I was talking about the will to live earlier. You can see the will to live as basically the need for self-preservation, need to survive, and people that go out and seek material things, people that go get security and go get houses and cars and all of these things to have more things and save it up for a rainy day. That's part of the will to live. That's part of the trap of survival instinct, and it takes you away from who you really should be. It takes you away from what's really important, because I mean, God forbid you live in a war-torn country, but like, most people today that are alive don't really need to struggle for food. Most people don't really need to struggle for many things. And when we succumb to the survivalistic nature of things, then we start to put ourselves above others. And the truth is, like, when you stop seeing the difference between yourself and others, that's when you're truly a compassionate person. That's truly when you can transcend yourself and you can be the person that you should be, because I don't believe anyone's better than me. I don't believe that anybody's worth more than me. And I can say that right now. But maybe in the heat of a fight I won't feel that. But like, it's being able to recognize that and being able to treat others as you would want to treat yourself. Being able to see the other person's side and see that they're somewhat justified for feeling what they feel. It's the skill that, I wish more and more people develop, because what's really wrong with this world is it's a bunch of selfish people pointing the finger at everyone else, saying, you're the problem, your side's the problem, this thing is this. And meanwhile, in the most cases, I think people have a good heart. I think people really want to help people. I think people are sympathetic, but they don't understand that they're attaching their ego to things. They don't understand that they're attaching their ideology to things. Like, if you really want people to get better and the other side has the solution, then you should be willing and open arms to accept that solution. But I think that's not something that will ever happen. And we're really asking a lot from people to think of these things. But again, these are all ideas that I think you should play with. These are all ideas that I think you should begin thinking about because don't think about it for societal progression. I think society's kind of screwed. I think society's been screwed since the dawn of man, but you can help yourself. You can help your family. You can help your community. You can be an inspiration to others. And I think when we take that mindset, that's really the only way to exact change. I don't think you're ever going to have a mass movement that does anything. I don't think you're going to be able to convince enough people because people are just trying to keep their head above water. That's the simple reality of this world. They don't want to think about these things. They want to get home, relax, put on the TV, nothing, go to sleep, go to work the next day. And it's like, that's fine. If that's your path, that's your path. But I think people put too much emphasis on going out and helping others, going out and being a missionary, going out and doing all these things, like forcing people to believe the way that you believe because it helped you. And the truth is, like, people won't seek help when you tell them that they need help. They'll seek help when they see you do better than them, and then they're inspired to do the exact same thing. I think when you focus on that element of things, then that's really the path forward. Gandhi said it best, be the change you want to see in the world.
Force, or pain, manifests as boredom and a sense of lack, as opposed to the negative force, which is simply the quenching of one's thirst. So happiness is merely the ending of a painful desire, and often this temporary ceasing of suffering can be incredibly short-lived, or not even take place at all. According to Schopenhauer, this is because the extent to which people can fulfill their material desires drastically varies per person.
You can never fill your materialistic desires. Anything anything above sustenance, anything above your means, what you need to survive is too much. And I'm not saying that like you shouldn't have excess. I'm saying it's the attachment to these things, the attachment to the things you have, and ego association with them that become dangerous. And that's something I want you to recognize. I want you to recognize wealth, money, all of these things. I want you to see it as your ability to have freedom, your ability to do what you want with your day. When you see it in that manner, then it's something uplifting. But I think too many people are chasing fame, chasing accolades, chasing respect, chasing society's approval, and they're not doing things because they want to do them.
I quote, "It is difficult, if not impossible, to define the limits which reason should impose on the desire for wealth. For there's
What's
no
up, Bozo?
absolute or definite amount of wealth
How's
which will
everything?
satisfy a man. The amount is always relative, that is to say, just so much as will maintain the proportion between what he wants and what he gets."
See, this is a very optimistic mindset. I wouldn't be that optimistic. I think that maybe 1% of people would be able to pump the brakes, but most people, given unlimited resources, would still want more. I mean, we see it with some of the most famous and successful individuals in history. Alexander the Great conquered the known world, wanted more. Julius Caesar made temporary dictator, he wanted to be permanent dictator. Elon Musk wants to conquer Mars. Jeff Bezos wants to conquer Mars. Like there's never such thing as enough, especially when it comes to material things.
For to measure a man's happiness only by what he gets, and not
What's up,
also by
Bozo?
what
I
he
said hi already.
expects to get, is as futile as to try and express a fraction
What's up,
which shall
viewer?
have a numerator
How's
but
everything?
no denominator. A man never feels the loss of things which it never occurs to him to ask for. He is just as happy without them. Whilst another, who may have 100 times as much, feels miserable because he has not got the one thing he wants.
So this is a very profound statement right here. If you have nothing and you get nothing, it doesn't matter. If you have nothing and don't get the one thing that you want, you're like a little toddler. And it's really, really, really a great message. And this is what you'll take away most from Walden. I know Thoreau has some pretty interesting philosophy. I know he has some pretty interesting insights, but the greatest insight is the cathartic experience he has when he lives on the bare minimum and he appreciates it. He has like a I was supposed to say coming to God moment, but it's not really that. It's he found something in the woods that he couldn't find in society. He found that when he lived with as little as possible, he appreciated everything. he really looked at the things he had and he was thankful that he had them. He was thankful because they helped him when he needed a certain tool, when he needed a certain amount of food, like he had done it himself. And it's that idea.
End quote. How much do we need to feel content? And what does the obtained object require to be maintained? Moreover, when wealth forms the basis of contentment, we subject ourselves to the law of diminishing returns. What elated us in the past may leave us unsatisfied in the present. And so, we need more and more to maintain our baseline happiness and not to fall prey to the agony of boredom. Unfortunately, looking at the current condition of society, boredom is becoming more and more prevalent, despite the exponentially growing availability of entertainment.
Boredom is like the greatest thing that you can have. When you're bored, then you are curious. Then you're going to find a way to occupy your mind. But too many people fill their boredom with nonsense. Too many people fill a lot of the gaps in their day with absolute nonsense, like going on TikTok, going on social media, doing all these things. And I'm not saying I'm perfect myself, but at least try to put some time and try to allow yourself to be bored. Try to allow your mind to calm down because it's not relaxing for your mind to be bombarded with dopamine, be bombarded with all of these flashy reels and all these flashy TikToks while you're quote unquote relaxing. What really recharges your brain is just allowing it to wander, allowing it to think about anything else except what has to be done right now. And I think if we allowed ourselves to be bored, then we would have a lot better handle of ideas, handle of the things that we needed to do in our lives.
Entertainment and stuff to buy. The modern human seems to be increasingly jaded, and to relieve himself from the pain of overindulgence, he keeps chasing the very thing that caused it in the first place. According to Schopenhauer, however, evil is not in money itself, but in how we treat money.
It's very similar to what the Bible says. The Bible says the love of money is evil.
He describes that some people earn a lot of money but spend it quickly and fall back into poverty, and that other people succeed in maintaining their capital and even increase it, but are nevertheless dissatisfied. One lives in ongoing poverty as he doesn't have the skills to escape, which produces pain. Another is wealthy from birth, but never stimulated to fight for his place in society or develop valuable skills. Life delivers him, wrote Schopenhauer, up to the other extreme of human suffering, boredom, which is such martyrdom to him that he would have been better off if poverty has given him something to do. End quote. Schopenhauer argues that the best use for money is that it makes one independent.
I think I was saying this earlier, like treat money as your ability to be free, treat money as your ability to do what you want with your time. I think people nowadays seek to get things, seek money to get yourself back.
Allows one to live comfortably without having to work and functions as a bulwark against evils and misfortunes. So we could say that he advocated for financial independence, so we are masters over our time but don't fall into boredom. Most people regard other people's opinions as significant in deciding how they live their lives. But aside from it being a natural tendency, Schopenhauer finds it hard to explain why people continually rejoice in the approval of others, like cats in.
I think it's okay to respect a certain few people's opinions, people that really are honest with you, people that really mean something to you, people that you respect. But it's a weird concept to me to respect people's opinions that you don't particularly like. And not saying that you like dislike them, but it's just it's someone that doesn't really know you. It's someone that doesn't really see what you go through on a daily basis. So like how could they even judge you? How could they even have a good barometer of who you really are? And I think that's something that if you start thinking about, if you start thinking about like people that say things about you, they don't know anything about you. And if they knew your whole story, they probably would be very sympathetic to you.
Inevitably purring when someone pets them. He sees this tendency as a weakness, and it's pretty evident that other people's opinions in themselves are unimportant to our happiness. Yet, we continue worrying about the thoughts of our fellow humans, even if we don't know them personally. But Schopenhauer
It's
admits
good
that the human
hypnotia.
tendency to care about their reputation has its merits. Copious amounts of people keep walking in
Your
line
mom
because of
likes
their
me.
inclination
Yeah, one of the funniest things to say is like when someone's like, "What do you mean you're ugly?" And you're like, "My grandma calls me handsome." Like that's always the funny comeback I have. I don't know if it's funny now that I'm saying it, but like whenever someone insults me, I'll be like, "Well, my grandma likes me."
to maintain good standing and honor. We can see this phenomenon with a fictional race in the Star Trek series called the Klingons. Their idea of honor works like cement to keep a violent, intense people of warriors in check, as the way their kinsmen perceive them forms the essence of their identity. As Schopenhauer observed, honor can work as a substitute for morality. However, he also mentions that the effect of such reputation-driven mentalities will be detrimental to one's peace of.
So think of the people that are like very corporate minded. Think of their entire existence is based off of their reputation moving up the ladder. They're usually the least fun people to talk to. They're usually the most rigid, the most boring. They don't have good stories. And I don't know. It just seems very shallow to me. It seems like a very poor way of spending your time. And again, that's just my opinion, but it's very weird that like people will base their entire value of themselves off of the reputation that they have, the money that they make, the car that they drive, the position that they hold. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, go on LinkedIn every time someone gets a minor promotion, they're like bragging to the world that they got like an extra word at the end of their title.
Mind. Hence,
Should I watch Star Trek? I never really watched it.
Klingons are brave, strong, powerful, feared throughout the galaxy, but they also seem pretty unhappy, disturbed individuals by and large. The content of people's minds is, in most cases, pretty overrated. Schopenhauer mentions that people's thoughts are futile, ideas are narrow, sentiments mean, opinions perverse, and mostly based on error. And thus, isn't the most rational stance to people's minds one of indifference?
Catch them in private one on one. Maybe they're wearing a mask. Yeah, everyone wears a mask though. Osho had a really interesting idea. He's like politicians are lying even to themselves because they're wearing a mask in every single room they go into, and it's a different mask. When they're with their family, they're one type of person. When they're with one group of people, they're this way. When they're with union leaders, they're a different way. When they're with a different kind of voter, they're a different way. When they're in the Senate or Congress, wherever they are, they're wearing a different one as well. And it's like they don't even know who they are. They're lying even to themselves. They don't even know what is beneath all those masks. You think they don't wear masks when they're alone? I mean, that's an interesting idea. So there's a there's like a idea that you're true with yourself when you're alone. I don't think that's the case though, because I think you're biased. You're biased by your experiences. You still have that sense of ego. That's still you still have that sense of self that comes from this world, and it's only through like deep introspection, deep meditation, deep programming practices, I'll say, that you can find out the things that you really want to be, find out who you really are, find out your true emotions and what you truly feel about the life that you've lived so far. That's a very interesting question. I heard Nixon was anxious and shy in groups. I believe that about Nixon. Dude, the funniest thing about Nixon is like he's seen as like a very like a guy that's like willing to get something by any means, but he was like afraid of Lyndon Baines Johnson. He's like that guy would kill his mother. Like it's just such a funny thing to hear like someone that was like notoriously such a crook say something about another president. Yeah, I'm sure the mask would fall off if you did that. We're never true with ourselves. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the case. Sometimes I feel like you might be able to feel it for like a few seconds, but it's a very fleeting feeling.
I quote, "We should add very much to our happiness by a timely recognition of the simple truth that every man's chief and real existence is in his own skin and not in other people's opinions, and consequently that the actual conditions of our personal life, health, temperament, capacity, income, wife, children, friends, home, are 100 times more important for our happiness than what other people are pleased to think of us. Otherwise, we shall be."
So he's talking about the true reality of things. Like it's easy for someone to have a conversation with you for 5 minutes and say, "Oh, this guy's an ass." They don't know everything that's happened to you. They don't know every experience that you've seen. They don't know the things that happened to you as a kid, or the things that have happened to you recently, or the things that are bothering you even today. And it's it's focusing on the bigger picture. It's focusing on the things that you already have, the things that mean something to you, and appreciating those above what anything else can do. Osho has a really good idea. I feel like I've said this every stream this week, but you can only allow people to only you can allow people to insult you. If someone insults you and you don't give it any weight, then it means nothing. The power of the insult lies in the power that you give it. The more you linger on it, the more it affects you, the more it repeats in your mind, and the more it upsets you, the more powerful it is. But the less you fixate on it, the less you give weight to it, it doesn't really mean anything in the end.
Be miserable. And if people insist that honor is dearer than life itself, what they really mean is that existence and well-being are as nothing compared with other people's opinions. End quote. Who we are, and thus how we see and experience the outside world, decides how we feel. It forms the lens through which we experience the world, and the apparatus which processes the information our senses perceive. All of our possessions, wealth, and standing with others are subservient to how we position ourselves to these external circumstances.
So what he's saying is everything that's happened to you, everything that you have experienced up until this point, shades the way you see the world. It's basically confirmation bias, or my favorite way to put it is this is from Robert Anton Wilson. What the thinker thinks, the prover proves. So whatever you think about the world, your mind will bend over backwards to begin to see more of. That's why I always tell that's a good way to phrase it, Hypnodia. I spoke about all of this before with a friend. It's like your spine. Yeah, I was tapping your phone. That's weird though, dude. I've been having some pretty crazy synchronicities lately myself. It's always like I don't know, it's cool when people share their synchronicities because like I feel like I have one like a pretty significant one at least like once a week. And it's always cool when I know I'm not alone with that. Yeah, it's definitely I mean it's definitely the title that made you find this video.
Some people have gained fortune and fame, but are simultaneously more miserable than when they were poor and unknown. In such cases, what's the actual value of wealth and fame? How someone is determines the value, or as Schopenhauer.
So I don't know if he's gonna talk about it this way, but what I want you to really emphasize is don't attach yourself to the be happy with who you are right now because the moment you get whatever advanced position you want, whatever amount of fame, whatever amount of money, your life is about to get a whole lot harder. So if you can't deal with what you have right now, what's on your plate right now, then don't ask for anything more. Learn to be happy with what you have already. Learn to be happy in the quote unquote bad circumstances you have right now. And you've just prepared yourself for the next level. You've just prepared yourself for that success. And that's really all we can do. Like I promise you, if you put in the work, if you dedicate yourself to something, you will get it. But learn to be happy with the process. Learn to be happy with the journey. Learn to be happy right now.
States, what a man is contributes
That's my
much more to
mindset.
his
Yeah,
happiness than what he has, or how
that's a
he
good
is
one. That's a really
regarded
good
by
mindset to
others.
have.
What a man is, and so what he has in his own person, is always the chief
Having a
thing to
family
consider.
is way better than what I was doing before. Or you're just watching Star Trek.
For his individuality accompanies him always and everywhere, and gives its color to all his experiences.
I'm excited to have a family. I'm excited to like I don't know. I just think it's gonna be a fun chapter of life. It's gonna be a fun learning lesson because it's very stressful when they're young. It's very stressful when they're growing up. But it's gonna be cool to teach someone that is going through things that I went through, how I went through them, and how I learned these lessons, and how I overcame them. And think about it. When you were in like middle school, when you were in high school, and like someone did something and it seemed like the end of the world, and really it was something you forgot about in a week. Like there were so many things that I got all worked up about when I was younger that I can't even remember nowadays. But I remember being very upset at a few friends. I remember like not like breaking up a friendship, but not talking to people for a few weeks, and I can't even remember what it was about anymore. You know what I mean? It's like something that seems like the world to you when you're that age, like you just forget about it. It's one of the funniest things. Enjoy the struggle. In 10 years, you will be dreaming about the struggle you're going through now. Yeah, yeah.
In every kind of enjoyment, for instance, the pleasure depends principally upon the man himself. End quote. Perhaps unexpectedly, from the pessimistic philosopher, Schopenhauer praises a quality he calls genial flow of good spirits. He points to the human capacity of simply being happy and cheerful for no particular reason.
Eddie, I can't believe you, man. It's so disappointing. So you just called Schopenhauer a pessimistic philosopher. I really, I mean, if anything, I think Camus is a little more pessimistic. Um, Schopenhauer, he really just reads like someone that doesn't believe most people make decisions that are going to make them happy. Most people live in a manner that's going to drive them insane and drive them to live a lesser existence than they deserve to live. Because truly, everyone deserves to be happy. Everyone deserves to do what that will. I hate that I just quoted Crowley, but that's really true. Like you should be allowed to do whatever you want if it's really gonna make your life better, as long as you don't hurt other people. But um, it's very weird to me that like he gets this bad rap. Maybe it's the language, maybe it's the words he uses, but I think it could also be that people don't really understand Eastern ideology. People don't really understand like that Lao Tzu and Buddha kind of broke down every societal convention and pointed out the flaws in it and pointed out the weaknesses in them and kind of despise them in a way. You need Kyle Busch to win the race this year.
Other than being so, being happy for being happy has its own instant reward, and according to Schopenhauer, can so
Being happy
completely
for being
replace the
happy.
loss of every other blessing. Being able to do what fits our personality in terms of how we spend our time will smooth the way for contentment. For example, someone inclined to intellectual activities shouldn't do menial work, and someone with the strength of Hercules probably shouldn't go for a sedentary job. Also, according to Schopenhauer, physical and mental health is the most significant contributor to cheerfulness. If one feels good, mentally and physically, the most simple things become pleasurable.
That's a big key right there. Hypnotic, I think you're
And
right.
no money nor fame will be required to put a smile on one's face. Cheerfulness is the best antidote to misery. Money cannot buy it, nor can fame. And the more we pursue these external objects, the more we scare cheerfulness away.
So this brings you back to Plato's idea of know thyself. This is the idea that when you know yourself, when you know what you're really about, you know that the material things won't fill the void of what you're looking for. The only thing that's going to fill the void is you doing the things that you really want to do. Like a good example is like we all had hobbies as kids. You know, maybe you like singing, maybe you liked playing sports, maybe you liked, you know, going out in the wilderness, and you kind of forget about it because life catches up to you. But when you rediscover those activities, you rediscover that like childlike curiosity. That's really what this is talking about. I know you said happy like children. That's the perfect way to put it.
Chasing wealth and prominence just for the sake of these things is no way out of misery. We'll not only feel stressed because of the chase, we fall prey to boredom as well, as many forms of pleasure leave us ultimately unfulfilled. On the other hand, living in constant scarcity won't help either, as we'll spend our time working jobs we hate and have no time to do what we like. But if we manage our lives in ways
Hypnotic, you know what I was thinking? Whatever happened to Christina? Are you like concerned about that at all? Like I'm very concerned. If you guys don't know, there was a girl that used to come into the streams and she like she was something else, man. Like she was telling us how like her ex-boyfriend cheated on her with her best friend and then started dating the best friend. So she stole his clothes, took a video of her burning them, and then sent the video to him and said, "Oh, there's no evidence of me doing anything." And I'm like, I think there is evidence. I like Christina, wherever you are, we miss you.
that make us receptive to it, cheerfulness might knock on our door more often. And if that happens, Schopenhauer encourages us to throw the door wide open. Schopenhauer states that the surest remedy not to be too unhappy is that one doesn't desire to be
She sounded pretty normal. You think so? Dude, I felt like she was pretty out there, man. She was like, I don't know why these teachers are out to get me. I just keep getting in fights and they keep giving me detention. It's like, I think you know why. I think it's pretty obvious, pretty clear, but
very happy. Judging by his writings, we could say that this remedy means finding contentment in things that are durable, widely available, pleasurable, but not harmful. He subscribes to the idea that, essentially, we shouldn't focus on gaining pleasure, but on avoiding pain. In the view of Schopenhauer, cheerfulness isn't a positive emotion, but rather a state of little pain that ensues independently from external circumstances. He goes deeper into
think of
this
it
in his
as relaxation. So think of the emotion he's describing as like when you're at Thanksgiving dinner, if you like your family and you're just sitting around eating, no one's on their phone, no one's doing anything. It's just calm. No one's thinking about what they have to do tomorrow. No one's thinking about the responsibilities. Everyone's just enjoying their time. If you don't like your family, then think about, you hanging out with friends, you just, bullshitting with friends, you at a fire with your friends, or you going out in nature. That's really the emotion he's describing.
second
If you're
part of his book, where
Schopenhauer,
he presents his 53 rules
I hope you're not Schopenhauer because when Schopenhauer was an old man, he lived in an apartment with his dog, and all the kids would say, "Oh, that's Mrs. Schopenhauer right there," about his dogs. Maybe that is you.
for life. A life devoid of suffering would be ideal, but very difficult to reach, and only a few people try, like Buddhist monks. Hence, his rules are meant for the average person, whom he doesn't advise to become an ascetic, but to pursue his pleasures wisely and necessarily sacrifice them to avoid pain. Schopenhauer recommends so-called higher pleasures, the pleasures of sensibility, such as reading, meditation, philosophy, and a taste for poetry,
No, me,
music,
me and Hypnotic are talking about the same person.
or culture. Compared to many other lower pleasures, we can relish those endlessly and generally without unhealthy consequences for the body and mind. Picking up a book, sitting in silence, listening to music, writing, studying ideas is generally safe and won't require us to be rich and reputable. And the potential joy it brings is a priceless consolation in the midst of an existence characterized by pain.
Oh, that was a pretty good video. Um, time is the 10:45. Eddie, should we do it? Or don't look at my spelling. I cannot spell. If you guys like, when I write things, if you guys like could see how wrong I spell the things, you would not respect me at all.
Democracy basically means government
He talks so slow.
by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded. So let us say
I love how he doesn't even laugh. In French, they say this word to mean slow. Yeah, Osho also died in the 90s, so it's not like the same like meanness to it. But yeah, I think that's the perfect way to end the stream. I don't know about you guys. Um, I'm still laughing. If you guys were here, thank you guys for having a fun stream. I'm gonna stream longer tomorrow probably. Um, I just got some stuff I gotta do before I go to bed. So, with that said, I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one.